Good morning, good morning. Welcome everyone to Passion and Purpose and Possibilities. Hope everyone is doing well today. How's everyone doing on this fabulous Friday morning? I know I am doing fabulous. And I'll tell you why I've done fabulous. Something I've heard many times, but most recently from Steve Harvey. Is because every morning I wake up and I have a conversation with Foreman Positive of my thought factory. That's right. You have an internal thought factory. So you have, and I'm going to use the stick person, often used by Bob Proctor and whatnot. But so let's say, I know it's a little different than Bob Proctor, but let's say this is you up here. And then down here you have your thought factory, and it's divided into two. You have the negative side and the positive side. And each side has a foreman. So whatever you start thinking about is like having a conversation with that foreman. You thinking about negative things, oh, I got to get up, go to work today. My alarm went off too early. I'm so tired. Then you're having a conversation with foreman negative over here. And then if you have that conversation, you say, I'm not feeling myself today, having a bad day, he's going to turn around and to his workers, and by the way, they each have 1 million factory workers, and they go, all right, guys, listen up. Boss man said he woke up too early. He's real tired, wrong side of the bed, not feeling it. Let's get to work. And just like that, they start producing more thoughts and sending them your way. Just like that. Pretty soon you're finding everything negative to be about. I stubbed my toe. The shower was a little cold. It's snowing outside. My car heater doesn't work right. On and on and on and on and on. And then it keeps going through the day. And that's how your day's going to be because of that conversation, that order. You place an order essentially with Foreman negative. Basically telling him, hey, I want lots of negative thoughts. Crank them out. Let's get them going. On the flip side, though, if you have a thought with positive, Foreman positive over here, say, all right, it's going to be a great day. Had some good sleep. I get to go to work and provide for my family, provide for my dreams, start working on my dreams or continue working on my dreams. It's not the greatest car, but it's a car that works, gets me where I need to go. There's a lot of snow outside. Thank you for the snow. It's so beautiful. A lot of moisture. You're having a conversation with Foreman Positive. Then he turns around to all his guys and says, listen up. Bossman wants positive thoughts. Let's get going. So they fire up the machines in the factory and they start pumping out positive thoughts. And that's what you see throughout the day. So it's going to be a great day. It is a great day because I had a conversation with Foreman Positive today. So, and he's just cranking out those positive thoughts. Every once in a while, positive Foreman will pipe up down the hall, but negative Foreman, pipe up down the hall. But I'm focused on my conversation with positive Foreman Positive. So he's cranking out those thoughts. They're happening. I'm seeing the great things in life. I'm seeing the positive. It's going to be a great day. And if you happen to have a conversation with Foreman Negative at the beginning, you could still choose to walk down the hall and have a conversation with Foreman Positive and start turning your whole day around. You tell Foreman Negatives, never mind, I'm got enough of those, I don't want any more, shut down the factory. Over to positive, Foreman Positive, I want some more of what you've got, crank me out some more, double time, let's get it going. So, and then vice versa. So the power is up to you. So I am choosing to have a good day. What is who are you having that conversation with? Which foreman are you having that conversation with? But so again, thank you for being here. As always, episode is brought to you by Ingersoll Enterprises. Please go visit there, ingersollenterprises.com. We have a lot of great things going on, a lot of great content material. And it's all on the page, ingersollenterprises.com/events. And excuse me, we've got one coming up next week, a money mindset, goal setting, dream big workshop. Let me share that with you right now with my good friend, excuse me, Cassie Kramer. So that'll be next Saturday, 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Again, all the details and stuff and the links to register will be on ingersollenterprises.com/events. So please join us for that. Share that. If you feel you want to be there or you know something that should be there, please mention it to them. Please send them their way. No charge, no cost whatsoever. A lot of great information being shared there. So awesome. Today's guest is Ohan, and I'm going to completely butcher the last name, and I apologize. So I will just let him pronounce his last name. So he's a doctor of economics and a certified financial planner. Oh, come on, my page is not working right for a second. Sorry. With over 20 years in the financial industry experience, founder of OhanTheMoneyDoctor.com, while working in the financial industry and educating himself about money. That's very important. A lot of it is just education and knowing what's out there, and then also knowing how to use what's out there. So important. Ohan realized that no finance or math degree are needed to manage your money for your best interest. See, that's another misconcept we'll talk about is a lot of people think they need some degree or some certification or lots of money to fix their finances and stuff. And we'll talk about that some more. So looking forward to that. As a money doctor, he's breaking down the complexity of money so that beginner investors can build and grow their wealth with confidence and live on their own terms. Keyword, beginner. You could start now. Start with what you've got. So without further ado, Ohan the Money Doctor. Ohan, sorry. I'm completely butchering it today. I apologize.
Ken, it's all great, man. Good morning. And I'm happy and grateful to be here. The speech that you started the episode with, it just gave me goosebumps because that's the attitude I'm having. Every morning we wake up, we are ahead of so many people on planet Earth. God gives us another day to be alive. And the gratitude is the best attitude. And just to keep him positive, we will attract more positivity in our life. And as you mentioned, the guys in our head will start working towards positive, wiring positive energy in the neurons that are in our brain. It will transfer to all our body, all our cells will start communicating on a positive note. But I know my last name is hard to pronounce, but I'm sure if you try, you can make it happen. My name is Ohan, O-H-A-N, and my last name is Kayikchyan. But because my last name is hard to pronounce, I start going by Ohan the Money Doctor on social platforms. And the reason I choose the Money Doctor, because of my PhD in economics, and I don't go after titles and everything. We are all humans from planet Earth. That's how I know. And regardless of our titles, it's all about who you are. And the reason I choose doctor, again, just to be different for people to differentiate a brand. But you can call me Ohan, which is, by the way, the same name as John, Juan, Johan, but it's in my language. But English is my language now. And I'm happy to be here and to share my message that Money seems complicated, but when you educate yourself, it can become something very powerful because money is a tool, like a hammer. You can break windows with hammer, but you can build houses with hammer. The same way, like with money, you can do so many good things. But in the meantime, unfortunately, in the world, it shows that with money can be very much bad done as well. So it's all about how you use the tool. And I'm glad to be here to connect with you and with your audience.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. Money is a tool, and in that, and unfortunately, because we are educated the way we are, oftentimes we place a higher value on money than it should be, than it should have. We think the money is the ultimate ends. It's not the means to an end. We think it's the end goal, and we put so much value on it that it completely buries us many times, or completely it becomes the master, instead of us, and and then we lose out on the value of the the thing, the experience, the knowledge, the whatever that the money can pay for. So I love how you've started off with money as a tool.
Uh, and again, like you mentioned something important right now. Every sentence you talk, it brings me a thought that I want to comment on it just as an addition. It's all about like money beliefs. There is something called money scripts, and it is done by son and father, Dr. Klotz. They are the ones who put this money script in financial literacy, how to say financial like uh, space, and they talk about mainly four different scripts that people have, but one can be, as you mentioned, like people put money as a worship, so they will do everything to get that money. And unfortunately, in American culture and around the world as well, in many cases when people want to measure someone's success, they measure with how much money that person has. But in the meantime, we are missing other areas of life, how to say. We can go a little bit deep. There is something called Wheel of Life by Zig Ziglar, where he goes and talks about seven different aspects of your life, and how important is to have all seven in place so it can be a circle wheel, so the life will go smoothly, versus if you are missing one part, then you will go like bumps or like on a broken road, and it will not feel like good. So not to go too much detail, because again, like time and everything to take into consideration, I think of like money is very important. But in the meantime, I want our listeners to think today about four different aspects, and I will differentiate it as mental health, I will differentiate it as a spiritual health, I will differentiate it so mental, spiritual, physical, and then the money will come. Because all these four aspects, if you are aware of, and by the way, the money beliefs, it come from our unconscious mind, how to say, um, growing up from our friends, family, our environment, we got all these beliefs because everyone has opinion. And as if I'm not mistaken, Napoleon Hill mentioned that opinion is the cheapest commodity, so everyone has opinion. So you need to understand whom are you taking the opinions from. And by the way, like everything we talk today is not an advice, so I always like for my listeners to educate themselves, because the mm, resources are available, as long as you check and you see which source you are using. If that person has the experience, competent education, and he shows, he or she shows with his experience what he's done, so just know whom you are taking the information from. But when it comes to money aspect of this, look, like if God forbid someone has bad physical health, he or she again can have all the money in the world, but how pleasurable it will be if he cannot move from his bed out, you know? If someone has all the money in the world, but it is not good with his spiritual life or mental health, how pleasurable that part will be. So we need to pay attention to all these four different aspects. And when I was getting ready, and I'm excited to be here to connect with you, just to have this conversation together. I was thinking of what I should talk, and I don't have any notes or anything. But one important belief that again embedded in American culture is something called consumer mindset, the consumerism. Everywhere you go, like any store, any retailer you go, it can be an electronic store or it can be furniture store. Of course, even a dealership. You can go today as long as you have good credit. You don't need to have any money. You can apply for a loan in the case of car, or if you want that TV, brand new TV, which costs $4,000, you don't have that $4,000 set. You can apply for their credit card and you can get it. So it made our society consumers. And I don't want to blame anyone, everyone has their own choices. But here I'm today to share my message that there is a way to switch your mindset from consumer to an investor. So if you are using Apple products, let's take Apple as a company. If you are using MacBook or you have an iPhone as your phone, why you don't have some shares of company Apple? If you go every morning, and again, like I'm not big coffee drinker, I prefer tea, but if you go to Starbucks and you have your coffee or tea, why you are not owning part of Starbucks as well? Because we are privileged in United States that we have access to something called stock market. And I'm not believer, and I never talk about picking and choosing stocks because I don't know which company is Starbucks of in 10 years, or what will happen in Costco in 5 years. Because like you can look back and there was a big company in United States called Sears. And Sears, everyone knew about Sears and they have all their locations all around the United States. But where are they now? They file a bankruptcy in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So certain companies will go out of business, but there are new companies who come and replace them, such as Amazon, such as like Tesla. Tesla was not in S&P 500 a decade ago, and they just like came and they are now part of S&P 500. So instead of picking and choosing stocks, I'm more of a like index investing. So there is something in United States called S&P 500, and I don't want to make any boring this conversation, but in simple words, there are top 500 companies in United States. So in case like, let's say nothing will happen, but if Tesla goes out of business, there is new car maker will come and be part of S&P 500. One moment, General Motors or General Electric, they were on top of these companies, but then Facebook came and Apple came and Amazon came and Google came and they just change all these companies. But always, if you have these top 500 companies, which is 80% of overall stock market in United States, as Warren Buffett mentions, don't take my word, take Warren Buffett's word, who is one of the most successful investors in history of humanity. He always says that for middle class, S&P 500 will be something to look into. So this is I'm talking about long-term investment, because like my economy works as seasons. There are always like summer, and then fall comes in, and then there is winter, and there is also spring that goes again towards the summer. And now we are in a sense of a little bit in winter type of times when it comes to stock market. Everyone is concerned about like, hey, why stock market is down? But if I ask again, like paraphrasing Warren Buffett, if I ask Kenny, or I ask anyone, I ask my neighbor, I ask my cousin, like, let's say you are someone who likes burgers. And if I ask you like, okay, what will be your choice? That meat prices go down or meat prices go up? Majority of the people will choose like, oh, I want meat prices go down so I can buy my burgers cheap, in same quality but cheap. And in the meantime, when it comes to stock market, when the stock prices go down, everyone is freaking out. Why stock market going down? Like, but instead you can look as with this metaphor with the burger and buy more shares of with your $100 or $1,000 that you are putting in the stock market. And as you mentioned, like it is all about beginning. Always it starts with the first step. You don't need to have lots of money to be an investor and part of like or part owner of these great companies. As another mentor or more of like hero of mine, Jack Bogle, who is the founder of Vanguard Group, he mentioned like these big American companies every year baking a big American pie. Why you don't get your fair share of the pie? And you don't need to necessarily open a brokerage account. Many of our listeners, very possible, they work for companies who give them 401ks. 401k is an investment account. Or if you are self-employed, maybe you have something called solo 401k, or individual retirement account, IRA account. And interestingly enough, today you can buy even shares of slices of a share. So you don't have, let's say, $300 to buy whole share of that index fund. You can buy little bit slice. But the most important, you will start today. When people ask me, like, when is the best time to invest? I always paraphrase the Chinese proverb about the tree. And I mentioned that the best time to invest was 20 years ago. But the second best time is today because there is something called compounding interest. And that it does magics, you know. One moment, of course, it will not happen overnight or in a week. And by the way, these are not like get rich quick type of schemes we are talking here about. You will not get rich like overnight. I believe in some cases, yes, people can win a lottery or they do some type of like investment with I never understand, to be honest with you, and they can get rich overnight. I'm talking more of like long term. As I mentioned, the economy goes with cycles. So in average, it takes 10 years for one cycle, but this last cycle lasted a little bit longer than previous ones. So nobody knows. If someone comes and tells you like in 5 years this will happen to real estate market or stock market, they just don't know. They are all assumptions, you know. But there is one thing certain: if you go back and check the S&P 500 performance for the last, of course, it started in the middle of 20th century, but they go back and they apply the trend, you will see that in average it produced 10% annual return. But in the meantime, there were some years that it was down 30%. There were some years it was up 40%. So it always like balances itself. So these are the stuff that I'm trying to share with my listeners. And again, if you have some complicated type of situation, let's say you have big assets, you have like properties, of course you need to involve a investment specialist. You need to involve an insurance specialist. You need to involve a estate planner or estate attorney to straighten up your so-called net worth, just to see what you are trying to do now and post-mortem as well. But for middle class, at least just to start investing as soon as possible, but in a responsible way. And in the meantime, just keep in your mind that when you start it, you are getting a new habit of saving and investing. Of course, like I always started my conversation with a question like, do you have emergency fund? Something that, God forbid, if something happens, like, are you going to run to your credit card and to get that money from that high interest credit card? Or you have something put aside in your saving account that you can go and take it out? God forbid, let's say it's a car emergency, or in some cases, it can be even worse, like medical emergency. So these are the steps that you need to take. So to have an emergency fund, and when you have fully funded emergency fund, which is, by the way, for our listeners, 6 to 9 months of living expenses, just to be on the safe side a little bit, then of course you can put money in a stock market or whatever investment that you did your homework and you are confident that you can do it. It can be real estate, it can be certain, like, I'm not big fan of them, but cryptocurrency or NFTs, I always mention if you are not understanding about something, make sure you put enough money that you are okay with losing it. So at least 5%, let's say. But the majority of the funds you can put in something that showed throughout the history that it performed like well, at least to fight the inflation. God forbid, like S&P 500 will disappear if United States disappear with its system and market economy, which I'm a big believer of that the future is brighter than right now. I talk so many things and I touch so many subjects, Kenny. Feel free to ask me questions or your thoughts or additions, please. And
No,
feel free
I
to
love
interrupt
it.
me any moment.
Um, no, I love it because that's one of the things why I got into the financial services industry as well, because educating myself is what started it, because I had no idea about so many things and stuff, and learning that educating yourself is an investment, so when you talk about starting out as an investment, that's an investment, is learning. Get some mentorship,
Yep.
buy a book, read a book, read 4 or 5 or 6 books at least a year, or more. Audible makes it so easy to listen to so many books all the time and stuff. So invest in yourself. And then I've got a question, and I'll get to that in a minute. But it ties to investing in yourself and finding the right mentorship. And another thing I wanted to talk about, you talk about, it's a long term thing, and we're in a world of instant gratification. I could send a text and you get it immediately, regardless of where you are in the world. It might take 10 seconds. So we're in this
Max.
now. I gotta have it now. I want it now. Instant gratification world, and we have that same thought when it comes to investments. Whether in the stock market or some other financial thing or in ourselves or whatever, we think it's got to be now. So we pull out, like, let's say we invested in ABC and it goes down a little bit. So we pull it out, like, oh no, I'm losing money, pull it out. But we don't leave it in there long enough to go back up. And I'll relate it to like taking off in an airplane. The airplane gets going down the runway, then it starts going up, and that's when we pull it out. Instead of waiting for it to get up here and easy sailing, so to speak, we pull it up here, and then the airplane falls, and then we got to back up and start over. So many of these
Such a
things
great
is
metaphor.
is is long term. Now that's not to say be diligent in monitoring it and make sure it's still on track, but let it run its proper course. And like you said several times, getting the right guide, the right coach, someone who knows about that space. Because if you ask me about a lot of the stock markets or cryptocurrency, I know the words, and that's about it on some of those things. So I wouldn't know what the trends are, what to look for, what to expect, kind of thing in those areas. But if you ask me about other areas, I know very well what to look for, what to expect. And then getting back to finding the right mentorship and our mindset, why is it, especially in the DIY era that we are as well, a lot of people DIY, I'll fix it myself and save some money. I'll mow my own lawn and save some money and all those sort of things, and we can go into that and stuff. But why is it that when they do hire out, they'll hire out a contractor for their electrical or plumbing, or they'll hire out a mechanic, or they'll hire out for this or that, but we don't hire out for our finances or even ask for help? We don't seek guidance or help from some sort of financial expert.
Professional. Great question. And may I just comment a little bit what you just said at the beginning? Then I'll answer your question about financial advisors and financial professionals, like overall. So first and foremost, when people come and ask me like, "Oh, and I have $1,000, where I should invest?" And I always tell them, invest in yourself. And that's the best thing you can do. Just as Kenny mentioned, get some books and get some courses, find a mentor, and invest in yourself. Because perfect. And I know I wanted to mention some books even for our listeners to start. It can be Psychology of Money. It can be Simple Path to Wealth. These are like great books, at least for people start learning about how investing, how stock market works and everything. And again, I'm not a fan and believer in day trading when it is that, as you mentioned, the wrong time pulling out the money, because at that moment, like these big companies and the smart investors, they will buy the cheap stock that you are selling at that moment, and the one who are selling, they are the ones who are losing, because your loss is only on the paper until the moment you take the money out. See, this is very important for people to understand, for our listeners. But when it comes for people hiring a financial advisor, with my 20 years of experience in financial industry, a decade of it I spent working at a bank, and one of the biggest banks in the world in United States. Imagine when you mentioned like it was hard for you to understand investment. Someone like I am, who's an immigrant, came to United States, learned English, and I like, okay, now what is 401k? What is IRA? What is literally, Kenny, when I used to be a cashier as a teller in the bank, people come to me and they gave their $100 bill and they like, can you break it for me? I like, how you can break a bill? I know you can break a window, but how you break a bill? And then I realized, oh, they want some change. So break a bill, it means like they want some smaller denominations. And I need to learn what is penny, what is nickel, dime, quarter. So it is a little bit hard, but then you educate yourself, and then the confidence comes with the education. But when it comes to financial advisors, again, go to your question. Like, I work in the bank, and the major banks sometimes have brokerage divisions. These are the guys who help people with their investing. And in the bank, majority of the times, they have some type of minimum requirements. When um, let's say Mr. Jones come to the bank and like, hey, I want to see your financial advisor. The first question they ask, how much investable assets you have, and they have some number like 250,000, let's say, or 500,000. If you have less than that amount, no one wants to sit with these people. So what I realized, there is big underserved, how to say in English, population who is not served by a certain advisor, because they will send these people to do it themselves, as you mentioned, the DIY, and over the phone or the computer. Now they come, they open, they start reading something like, no, no, this is just too much. Let me close it and just move on with my life. And when the retirement time comes in, they don't have anything saved for their retirement. But there are even some people who retire early, so, and they teach themselves. And I want to differentiate two things. I did have my licenses, and still I keep my licenses. They are not active because I'm not associated with any firm. The reason being, I want to speak and talk anything comes to my mind, so I don't have certain company who ask me to sell certain products. And I always put your interest above mine, so I will give you my honest opinion, something called fiduciary duty. And the reason I mentioned that, I call myself a money coach, not money advisor. So if someone starts a relationship with me, I will teach them to do it themselves. So let's say this person has only $20,000 saved or $80,000 saved, and financial advisor will not sit with them to do all these planning and everything. I'm willing to sit with these people. And in many times when you have money and you hire a financial advisor, there are fees associated with it, which there is nothing wrong to paying a fee as long as you are getting value out of it. But in many cases, it can be very like crazy high fees, and they are really eating up your saved amounts. But versus like you can do certain things yourself and invest, again, I mentioned a lot, but in low cost and well diversified index funds, which have very minimal fees. Imagine 0.04% in comparison to 1% with financial advisor. So in my opinion, internet, as you mentioned, instant gratification all day long. People like scrolling their social media, it's TikTok or Instagram, and it's very short videos. So it kind of made span of our attention very very short, so we want everything right this moment. As you mentioned, we can send instant message. I can send an instant message right now to a food delivery company, and my breakfast will be at my door, my lunch will be at my door. So but then in the meantime, internet made so much eye-opening for people, so the information is available. But if you go right now to Google it or ask ChatGPT right now, like everyone is talking about AI, if you ask like how to invest, of course you will get some information, but then like, okay, where I should start? And just not talk about my webpage right now, this moment, because I know you will mention about it. But that was one of the reasons I created something I call Wealth Roadmap, which I'm talking about three most important steps to set people to their financial independence or financial freedom journey, or whatever they call. Maybe they don't necessarily want to be financially freedom and independent, but they want to have a choice of working. As you mentioned, like for some people, they wake up in the morning with their alarm and they're like, oh man, I need to go to work again. But they must go to work so they can pay their rent. But if you have a choice of working, then maybe you start working, let's say, in a library instead of doing your actual job that you do right now and you are hating it. But maybe you have a passion for library work, so you can have a choice of working. So to answer your question, you can do it yourself. And these three steps I'm talking about, of course, it starts with setting goals. It's very important to know where you want to go, because without having a certain destination and the goal, you will end up going nowhere, or you will end up somewhere that you don't even enjoy being there. So set up your goals. The second step is budget. And I know many people don't like the word budget because it can be something limiting. I don't want to live on a budget. But then I will suggest our listeners to switch it to maybe spending plan or cash flow statement. And you do budget, you see what comes in and what goes out. In many cases, unfortunately, as United States general like has a budget deficit, unfortunately our families also have budget deficit. And what they do to cover that budget, they borrow from their high interest credit cards. And this becomes like a cycle. It's always like you are borrowing, and if you are making only minimum payments, you will always pay unnecessary interest. But in many cases, people come to zero, or they have a surplus. So they have some money after making their monthly expenses, they have some money they can save. But unfortunately, they don't save. They upgrade their house, but they upgrade their car. Instead, they can pay themselves first, which is something like to think about, meaning like to put aside. Like I used to be a teller, I used to live paycheck to paycheck, and then I became a banker, which gets double the salary of the teller, double the salary of the cashier. And again, I realize I'm living paycheck to paycheck until the moment I realize, like, why you need to pay yourself first. So let's put that $50, $100, as much as you can on the side, then spend the rest. Because like when you are not saving, you are spending everything that comes in, everything goes out. Then again, you are realizing you are not saving everything. Again, like you can hire an advisor if you have some complicated situations, but also you can go with some coach who can maybe within like 2 3 4 sessions in 4 months you can be in touch with him, more of a be an accountability partner, accountability buddy who will check in with you to keep you um, responsible with certain things that you guys decide that you will do, and give a honest feedback. People need to be open just to get that honest feedback. If a financial planner sees something that like, okay, like this was not the right decision for you to upgrade your car because you could have drove your paid off car that you already paid for 5 years the loan, and now it's paid off, but the payment of the car, the one that you are upgrading now, let's say, and it sometimes sounds crazy amount, but people pay $700,000 for their cars. But if you put this $1,000 in a stock market, in the sense of like, again, a responsible way for long run, again, very diversified way, like appropriate to your risk tolerance, appropriate to your age, then that money will start working for you. In my opinion, this is the biggest secret, that people need to think about, that okay, it's enough for me to work for money. Let the money work for me as well. Another great book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki talks there like about these two like ways of approach. Like one is like, as by the way, like your podcast name is Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities. Yesterday, I need to mention about couple books, and I don't want to jump from Robert Kiyosaki. I'll continue about passion and purpose, what I was talking about. But he's talking about quadrants. He separates the page in four different quadrants. In one part, there are W-2 employees who are receiving salary from their job, and unfortunately, in American tax systems, the system is the way that these are the people who pay the most of the taxes. And then there are self-employed people who can be barbers, who can be mechanics, car mechanics, as you mentioned. But these are the people who are self-employed, but they need to be on top of their business in order for it to operate. So they are married to their businesses. Then there are two other parts. One is real business owners. These are the people who realize that they can have resources working for them. It can be technology, it can be humans. So regardless of you are in Utah, in California, or in Italy, your business is working and generating profit for you. And the fourth quadrant is the one who is the investor, who realizes that money can work for themselves. Not everyone can be a business owner. Guess what? The answer is there are already businesses you can invest in already. You don't need to go ahead and register a business today to become a business owner. You can invest in the same Starbucks or Costco or Tesla or General Motors. So there are a whole bunch of these 500 companies. You can be part owner of them. Again, this is not advice. This is for educational purposes only. So just always talk with the specialist. Always do your homework. But we need to come to this conclusion that money can work for us. And this is our goal, just to move to investor quadrant. And just to continue on passion and purpose, I wanted to talk about James Allen as well, who has writing from passion to peace. Passion is a great thing. You need to have a passion. I say like money is my passion. Talking about money and educating people is my passion. But in the meantime, keep in your mind that sometimes like your passion and desires, don't beat yourself up, don't like do it the way that you will get overwhelmed. Just find a purpose, which is second word you are using for your product. Just have a purpose. Why are you doing all this? What is your vision? And the possibilities are endless in United States, especially. We live in with all the pros and cons. We can talk politics, which I will note. I'm trying to stay away out of politics and avoiding talking about politics. I try not to watch any news because it's mainly like negative things. All this negative happened before as well, but again, like internet and the technology made it so much easier to access, to listen. So instead of like one channel, now we have thousands of channels that will listen the same news and everything. But though what I'm trying to say, with all the pros and cons, this is the greatest country on earth. Like the insurance system in United States, one of the greatest in the world. Like of course, like in health insurance area, sphere or space, we have so much to do, like to do it better. But let's talk about homeowners insurance. Let's talk about um, car insurance. Let's talk about life insurance. People don't have access to all these tools and resources outside of United States in many countries. People cannot invest in stock market. There is no stock market or system established in their country. So let's take advantage of it, educate ourselves, read a book, find a mentor, find a coach, find an expert, and just educate yourself, as Kenny mentioned. It is just like hard at the beginning, but when you start reading and you just put some time, and your passion will switch. You will find a purpose, and then you will see all these possibilities. That's my belief, Kenny.
I love it. You covered so many things there, and I want to touch on a few of them. And I just saw my son has my wife's phone, so he just said hi. That's
Oh,
that right
hi,
there
please,
is one of
hello.
the purposes I do is to be an example for those around me. Like my son who took my wife's phone and is watching this. So, but getting back to why somebody will hire a mechanic, somebody will hire an electrician, somebody will hire a plumber, but not a financial advisor. I think is the mindset of um, money is hush hush. We don't talk about money, and then also embarrassment. I don't want anyone else to know what my finances look like. They'll hire someone to come clean up the crap that flowed out of their toilet or their trash compactor that exploded, but they don't want someone to help them with their finances. And I think that is unfortunate, and I think it needs to definitely be excuse me, corrected. And another reason is the accountability. They don't want the accountability. I want to spend money how I want. I don't want someone else telling me what to do with my money. And it goes back to the education, the mindset. They're not telling you what to do. They're helping you get to the goals that you said you had. If I sit down with a client, this is their goal. I'm going to give them a pathway. I'll use it as a GPS. You put in GPS, you want to go from Utah to Florida, it's going to tell you what to do to GPS,
Correct.
but it's up to you to follow the GPS. But I think people don't want that nagging or someone telling them what to do with their money or something that embarrassment. I'd rather be embarrassed for a couple of weeks or whatever than spend the rest of my life in that pattern. So and then hush hush. Yeah, I'm not implying go brag about the money you have or whatever, but money is available to everyone. If you're wanting money, then talk about it, manifest it, ask for it. Hey, you are a financial professional. You know what you're doing. You're successful. Like you said, follow what Warren Buffett said. If um, don't be quiet about it. Yeah, I'm here now, but this is now. This is not where I want to be, and I'm willing to make those changes. It's, a lot of it starts with investing in you, and that brings up the mindset of investing. Um, I'll have a lot of people, and I was in this mindset too. Like let's take this book. This one happens to be from John C. Maxwell, but I used to look at it. Oh, it was $30 for this book. Oh, well, I could spend that $30 on this, or I could spend that $30 on that. You're not spending it. You're investing it. You're placing more value right now on the money than the value you'll get out of the book. You need to you need to recognize the value you'll get from the book or the investment in the stock market or in an IRA or some other vehicle like that. You need to recognize the value that you're getting that. And from my experience, like 9.9 times out of 10, it far overvalues or it's far more valuable than the dollar amount you're spending on it or you're investing on it. Or one of the another one that I get is, oh, I'm going to spend $100 a month on this savings account. No, it's not like it's going away. It's you're saving for you. It's working for you. There's so
Right.
many unfortunate mindset things that we've grown up with and we've learned from the internet, from our family, from our friends, from the so-called gurus that are gurus about everything.
Yes.
You know, but money is a tool. If I take that $30 and invest it on this book, I'm going to learn how to not only get that $30 back, but a whole lot more. I'm investing in me. I'm not spending it. I'm getting far more value than the money I put out. So, just one of the main.
If I
What was that?
if I can, if as one another metaphor just came to my mind, the way that you were talking about, like people bring like all these different technical people, even with their toilet situation or car and everything, but why they don't involve financial professional. Financial professional, someone who is a coach or an advisor, their job is to come in your garage and think of like your finances as a garage which is very much unorganized, so you have all these tools on the ground, you have all these parts on the ground. So he or she will come to help you to put all the tools in place and clear your garage so you have clear understanding what you have when it comes to your finances, what tools do you have. And during the year you will again use some tools and leave it again on the floor. So every 6 months or every year, you can just have a conversation just to see, like, again, like to put everything in place. But you need to have someone, as you mentioned, like the financial professional will give you the shortcut, so to say. Of course, you can go to from Utah to Florida, you can drive to Canada and then go to Florida. But if you want to go there like as soon as possible, then you need to listen to GPS. Versus if GPS says you like make a right and you make left, then again it will go from your time, from your resources. You will spend more gas, you will spend more time and everything. So these are like very important. Seems very simple, but we don't think like this. When it comes to the point when we talk about money, people just stop because like, and that's the reason it calls personal finance. It is different for everyone, everything. It's very like delicate subject and it's very individual. In many cases, brothers, cousins, friends, they don't want to talk. Like it is not right in United States. I realized to us like, Kenny, how much money you make, but we should be like comfortable with this because you can work somewhere like and earning like very low salary without even doing your research that with your qualifications you can get more somewhere else. So maybe you should have asked your friend or mentor or your coworker just to see like if you guys in the same range. Of course it comes to the something called trust, and we need to make trust, and in many cases people don't trust each other. Plus financial professional, they don't trust them either, especially specifically if they, let's say, lose money in 2008, in 2000, or in this recent drop, they took their money out because they listened someone, they invested, but they didn't take their time to get educated that this is a long-term game. It is not like get rich quick type of scheme. So these are all great points we are talking about, and the information is available. But again, check the sources, and the most importantly, start learning money language. The same way I came and learn English, the same way if we decide to go to China or Japan, we should learn Japanese or Chinese. Money has its own language. At least get familiar with uh, words as 401k, saving and investing. What is the difference? Okay, what is a budget? What is an individual retirement account or IRA? So start learning if you want to accomplish your financial success.
Exactly, and I love that, and I think that is a perfect segue into your free wealth roadmap that you mentioned before. Where can people find that? Where can they find more about you?
Thank you for this opportunity again, Kenny. And my webpage is Ohan, Ohan, OhanTheMoneyDoctor.com. on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Thank you for bringing it up on the screen as well. And on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, again, Ohan the Money Doctor. Also on LinkedIn with my name, Ohan Kayikchyan, which is a little bit hard last name. But if you go to ohanthemoneydoctor.com, you can download the free wealth roadmap. All you need to I'm asking for your name and email address so you can come to World and we can be in touch in my world. You can get the free wealth roadmap. Also, recently I start offering one-on-one coaching sessions, and our listeners can go on themoneydoctor.com at this time and uh, book a 30-minute complimentary free of charge. No pressure. I'm not going to sell you anything. As I mentioned, I'm not associated with any firms. I'm not going to sell you any products. We're just going to talk, try to connect to see if we are a good fit for me to help you to build your roadmap towards wealth, as Kenny mentioned, to give the GPS. And I'm offering 30-minute free discovery call just to touch bases to see if we are a good fit to work together. Our listeners can book that as well. And just I put like lots of like free content as well. People can find me now on different articles as well. I'm getting featured on. Just feel free to search for Ohan Kayikchyan or Ohan the Money Doctor, and lots of information will come out. But this was a great conversation. It seems that we can go hours and hours and hours talking about on this, because we I feel that we got the connection on this subject. But I'll remind our listeners, always keep your passion, purpose, and the possibilities will come.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah. I love talking about money and education and money mindset. And so, yeah, we could talk about this for hours and hours and stuff. And maybe we'll be back on with a second or third episode. But, again, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience. Everyone tuning in, if you got questions, reach out. You found his website. I'll put it up again here. allhanthemoneydoctor.com. Reach out there. Awesome. Good to see you, Rod. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you very much, Richard. Yes.
And everyone,
Thank you.
again, remember to live your passion, fulfill your purpose, and explore those possibilities. We'll see you next time.